I am an old fart, and I have a guilty pleasure. I like knives. I'm not an expert or an official representative of anything or anybody. I just like knives. And you've been joining me for the last year or so as we take a tour through my collection of small folding pocket knives. Thanks for the company. Today we're going to look at this mid-size knife. This is a Giant Mouse Ace Biblio. I've been aware of these for quite a while. First of all, they've got a cute name. I mean, how can you not love Giant Mouse? Seeing them in photos, I've never been sure about the shape and whether I liked it. They're sort of short and wide and chunky. But over the years, I've gradually collected a couple of other knives that are sort of in that shape range. And I did like what I was reading about its manufacturing quality, and so it's been on my list of things to try, and then I had an opportunity to pick up this one, so here it is. So, formally, a Giant Mouse Ace Biblio. Ace is the line of this design, and it's the larger of two aces. There is a smaller one called a Riv, R-I-V, and this one is the Biblio. Although this is larger of the two, it's not a large knife. We'll come to the size in a moment. It is a side flipper, and there is also, as you can see, there is also a blade hole, which I assume is intended to be usable to open it with your thumb, but we'll get to. I can't, but it also works nicely as a nail nick to open it two-handed. It is a liner lock knife, traditional liner lock style, running on bearings. The size, it is a mid-sized knife. It's 174 millimeters long, which makes it, and as a very common size in my collection, 0.95 pocket calculators. It seems to be the size I like. And to compare it to some non-calculators, it is basically the same size as a small Sabenza, tiny bit larger than a mini Griptilian. So call it a small Sabenza sized knife. The weight, however, is out of the norm. It feels heavy. First of all, I think it feels heavier than it actually is, if that makes sense, because it's thick and short for its weight. So all the weight is kind of there, as opposed to being spread out. So anyway, in actual numbers, it is a little heavier than the mini Griptilian, and it's 20 grams more, so quite a bit heavier than the small Sabenza, which is exactly the same size, remember. So same size, considerably heavier. Like I can really notice the difference in my hand there. So it's, for its size, it's a heavy knife. It's also quite thick this way. Let's compare these things. Okay. Quite thick in that direction. So there's heft there. You feel it in your hand, and you feel it in the weight. The blade is beautiful. The blade is M390 steel. It's a drop point, technically. It's a slightly unusual drop point. There's a lot of drop and not a lot of belly, so kind of a unique blade shape, which I think looks quite nice. It is short and wide, considerably more than a lot of other knives in that size range. Look at that. Sort of the same blade length, but what a difference in the blade shape. So it feels sturdy and sort of utilitarian because there's a lot of metal there. Large finger choil and jimping way up, so you can hold it heavily choked up for fine work. Feels very comfortable and sturdy to do that. The body, like many knives, there are a lot of options for the bodies. This particular one is micarta, and it's quite thick micarta scales on titanium liners. One of the things I like is the micarta is dimensioned in all three dimensions. It has obviously length and width, but if we turn it this way, you can see it also has a curve to it. Here, how do we do that there? There is a Z dimension in the micarta. It's got a gentle curve, which makes it feel great in the hand. Micarta is a nice material to hold anyway, and with that three-dimensional curve, it feels really good in the hand. There is a clip, shallow carry, bent wire, in a sort of a recess held in place by a bolt. So a little weird. Actually, strangely, the same clip mechanism as is used on the quiet carry drift. Right? And the clip is reversible to the other side, but not to the other end. There is a lanyard hole, so you could put a fob through there if you wanted to. I tend to only put fobs on knives that are so small that I don't feel secure holding them. This one is plenty big enough, so I feel no desire to put a fob on it, but you could. I have left-handed friends. Is this knife ambidextrous? I'd say sort of yes, yes, and no. Opening, yes, you can open it with a flipper tab, which is fully ambidextrous. You can open it with the holes, which is fully ambidextrous. The clip is ambidextrous, but of course, being a liner lock, it's really designed to be operated with your right thumb. Lefties, I'm sure you can figure out how to do that, but I'd be uncomfortable doing it. So I'd say, closing is awkward, but opening, sure. And finally, where is it made? Well, it's an interesting sort of a hybrid knife. It's an American company. The designers are Danish, and so their slogan on their website is American-owned, Danish by design, which is kind of cool. And it's not made in either of those places. It's made in Italy, in Magnago, Italy, which seems to be sort of the knife capital of Italy. Now, I don't know whether they run their own factory. I've seen speculation on the net that it might be made by Viper Knives or that it might be made by Lion Steel. I do not know, but it is beautifully made. Really good quality fit and finish tolerances. Perfectly centered blade. So nicely made by somebody in Italy. So let's go through some likes and dislikes. Things I like, well, I like the blade. I like M390 steel a lot, my favorite steel. I like the shape of the blade, the sturdy, utilitarian, thick, very confidence-inspiring blade. I'm not worried I'm going to bend or snap that blade if I'm prying at a twig in the garden. And very sharp out of the box, very pleasant bevel, and beautifully centered. I measured it, and the bevel is centered to the accuracy that I can measure, which is unusual for production knives, and that's really good. I like the appearance. I like the short, stubby appearance when it opens, and I like the kind of compact, just nicely put together package appearance when it's closed. Comfort, it's really comfortable. The thick, it means it's easy to grip. Us old farts, for you young farts may not realize this, but us old farts like thick things because we don't have to close our old arthritic fingers as far. So that's like it's designed for an old fart. It's really nice. And I love the texture of micarta to hold. And the finger recesses are comfortable. The jimping and the choil for choking up, and it is just a really comfortable knife to hold and use. What I don't like, a couple of things, only one really substantial complaint, and that is that it is hard to open. Being a liner lock, it relies on a detent when closed, and that detent is really strong. Strong enough that, first of all, I can't open it with the thumb hole. I assume it's supposed to be openable with that thumb hole, and I can't do it. I can open it two-handed with the thumb hole, but I can't get it moving one-handed. If I practiced enough, I'm sure I'd find the right angle and get it, but on a week or two of trying, I can't do it, and I don't really feel inclined to work at it any longer. There we are. Okay, in case there's a little discontinuity in the video here, my lapel microphone just fell off. I think I have successfully edited out the expletive. Anyway, what I was saying is, I don't really need to make a hobby out of trying to figure out how to open a knife, so I'm calling the open with the thumb a fail. For the side flipper, it certainly opens nicely, but it's hard. Like, I'm having to put a lot of pressure on that before it fires. I'm an old fart. Did I mention that? I'm an old fart. I can see myself getting to the point where I won't have the strength to fire the flipper. I'm not there yet, but it's hard work. But I can see myself getting to the point where I can't open this knife one-handed. But I'll always be able to open it two-handed, so that's the good side. The other dislike, it's heavy, I mentioned that, and thick, and with the shallow carry. So it's hard on the pocket. It's bulky in the pocket, it sticks out of the pocket, it's thick in the pocket, so it's not a really pocket-friendly knife. And as I mentioned with the drift, it uses a similar mechanism. I think the clip mounting mechanisms. They're a little bit ugly, that big screw that sits on top of the wire and the spare one that's sitting here. It looks kind of steampunk, it's bolts. So those are minor complaints. But they kind of imply the beginnings of our rating system. Let's look through the NTGK rating first. How does this do as a non-threatening gentleman's knife? Well, for non-threatening, the good news is you can open it two-handed, and that's important in front of nervous people. And the short, and what's the right word, stubby blade, it doesn't look stabby. It just looks like it was made to cut things, not stab things, and so that's non-threatening. The soft, sort of textured, organic-looking scales are non-threatening. I was mentioning this knife, and showing this knife to a friend, and said, it's not quite a gentleman's knife. And he said, what it is a gentleman gardener's knife. And I like that. Oh, and of course, the cute, disarming name. I mean, giant mouse. Who won't hear that? Giant mouse, ah, and make that sound. So I think it does pretty well as a non-threatening knife. But it has some negative sides. First of all, you can't open it slowly one-handed because I can't make the thumb hole work. So if I'm opening it one-handed, the only way to do it is the flip, and the flip is fast and loud. And so people go, switchblade. So that's a knock against it as non-threatening. As a gentleman's knife, the good news is premium materials. M390 steel over titanium, beautiful. High-end manufacturing tolerances and things. So, it is a machine to be proud of. And it's subtle, it's not over-decorated. The only marking on it is the model name ACE and the little giant mouse logo. Nothing else, no steel websites, manufacturers' names, pictures of celebrities. So, understated writing, which I like. The bad as a gentleman's knife is, well, it's not very decorative. Micarta is gorgeous stuff to hold and use, but it's not what I'd call pocket jewelry. I keep coming back to my friend's comment, gentleman's gardener's knife. Gentleman gardener's knife, which I think is very appropriate. The other comment, there's lots of screws. We don't really need a match to the pivot screw on this end, except it's a place to hold the clip if you move it. It just has a kind of a steampunk look to it. And of course, struggling to open it detracts from its gentlemanness. I want to pull this, the James Bond move, pull it out of my pocket to slice open the wad of bills in the casino, and I can't get it open. And then, finally it opens. So I think that detracts a little bit. And finally, as I said, it's not very pocket friendly. It's heavy, it's thick, and it's a shallow carry. So it's weighing down the edge of your pocket, spoiling the lines of your pocket, and quite a lot sticking out of your pocket. I'd give it a B as a gentleman's knife, an A as a non-threatening, so I'm going to give it a B+ overall as an NTGK. Next, what about the KN rating? What will my knife nerd friends think of this knife? I think they'll like it a lot. Most of my knife nerd friends are not really after the gentleman's knife target. They'll like this a lot. It's a well-known name, cute name, respected manufacturer, respected designer, respected manufacturer, premium materials, M390, really comfortable to hold and to cut with. The mechanism will be a bit of a detraction. I can see my knife nerd friends either being frustrated by the thumb hole or being very proud of themselves because they can make it work and I can't. But the thumb hole will certainly be a battlefield one way or the other. My knife nerd friends will say, what the hell is wrong with that detent? Didn't you lubricate it? So they'll be less than perfectly impressed with the mechanism, but they'll love the blade, the materials, and the feel in the hand. So I'm going to give it a B+ as a knife nerd rating. And finally, the CMR, the cut myself rating, I'm going to give it an A-. Now, I don't know that I've ever used an A- before, and it wasn't in my original defined scale. If I've never cut myself, that's an A. Okay? The minus is because of that thumb hole. I just can't let it go. I really want to. I want to stop worrying about it, but I can't stop trying to figure out how to open it with my thumb. And I imagine that eventually I'm going to cut myself through my struggling in this area of the knife. So I'm going to give it an A- for that. So that's our ratings. Let's summarize. This is a really nice knife. I like it a lot. It's great materials, a pleasant size, pleasant shape. The being thick and sculpted in that dimension. This is a really comfortable knife for an old fart to hold. Fits, arthritic hands really nicely. It's not a tuxedo elegant knife. And, my friend, not a gentleman's knife, a gentleman gardener's knife. But, I go in the garden, so there's a place for that. The detent is disappointing. It's much harder to open than it should be. Maybe that'll improve with time or something I can adjust, don't know. But except for that, thank God I can open it two-handed. Right? So the detent is not going to become a problem. So overall, this is a really nice knife for blue jeans and weekends and gardening, and I'll certainly see it getting a lot of use in that area. Thanks for watching. See you again.